Hey guys, transformation for today is reflection. So we're going to take a look at reflecting objects. Okay. What a reflection is and how to reflect it is what we're going to learn today. We're going to learn to reflect it over a whole bunch of different lines. First thing is our reflection takes an image and reflects or flips it over a line. This line right here is called our line of reflection. So if we're going to take my buddy, my Nittany Lion, and reflect him over that line, then there he is. Now, if I was to take a point, let's say on my Nittany Lion flag right here, and point on my Nittany Lion flag right here, what you're going to find is that this line of reflection is a perpendicular bisector between those points. So that's a really important fact to know. Okay. A reflection does not change size, nor does it change shape, but we say its orientation changes. So we see a mirror image. And again, if I take that point, I'm going to hit it again and again, connect them. This would be a perpendicular bisector, that line of reflection. So if I was to take another point, say the top of the flag, and draw it here, here would be another perpendicular. Be perpendicular, it would bisect perpendicularly that line. So basically all this key concept says is that it has two properties. If point A is on line R, so here's point A and it's line on R, then the image of A is itself. And then if it's not on the line, then line R is perpendicular to the bisector of B and B prime. Okay. Now, because this didn't change, actually, let's go back one. It didn't change its size or its shape, then that means that reflections are isometries. So this is an isometry. It doesn't change the size and shape, it just changes its orientation. So you've done some simple reflections before. If I'm going to reflect this over the x-axis, so my x is the horizontal, all I really have to do is count to that line. So A is one above it, so I'm just going to go one below it. So here is my A prime. B, to get to the axis, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going to be 5 below the axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's B prime. And connect my dots in a semi-straight line. C is 3 above, so C prime is going to be 3 below. And there is my new figure, my image reflected over the x-axis. Okay. It doesn't necessarily have to be an axis that we can reflect over. We can also reflect over any line that we want. Remember, y equals 3 is my horizontal line that goes through 3. Okay, and I'm going to reflect over that. Now, sometimes these are tricky because when I reflect, it's going to go two different ways. Meaning, A, if I'm going to reflect it over that line, is going to go 2 to here. So I've got to go 2 here. So here's my A prime. Now, B is above the line. So B's got to below the line. So I'm going to go 1, 2 to hit the line. I'm going to go 1, 2 to go down below the line of reflection. So here's AB. Okay. And then C, as we said, is on the line. So C prime is also going to be on that line and be that point. So here's my new image. And in the last lesson, I said sometimes it helps to shade. I think it really helps, especially if we're flipping things over onto itself, to shade in what our reflection is so we can pick it out a lot easier. Okay. Reflect over the line y equals x. So remember that this is the same as y equals x plus 0. So my y-intercept is 0, and then my slope is 1. Why it's doing that? So here's my line above, and let's continue my line going below. Now here's where that perpendicular comes in. So if my line, the slope of this line is 1, the slope of my perpendicular is going to be -1. Okay, so we're going to have C, and it's going to go with that slope of -1. And to me, the easiest way to reflect is to use that slope and to count. So if I start at point C, and I know that I want it to follow along, we have to have perpendicular. So from C, if I go down 1 and over 1, here's my slope of -1, and I can just kind of continue that line. Okay. Notice that I went over 1 and down 1 once, twice, and then a half. So a half, once, and twice. So that's where my C prime is. So if you didn't quite understand that, I went 1, 2, and then a half, and here's my half, and then 1, 2 to get to that new C prime. Okay. B prime is actually also against that line, so I'm just going to continue out this line. Okay. So B, to get down to where my line of reflection is, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half. So a half, 1, 2, 3, 4 is my B prime. So my B prime's here. Let me get rid of these guidelines now so that you can see a little bit better. So here is my C prime and my B prime. Now from A, if I'm going to go -1 with create a line with a slope of -1. Okay. To do that, I've gone 1, 2, 3 and a half. And then so on the other side, I'm going to go a half, 1, 2, 3 right here. So that's where my A prime is going to be. So if I were to connect these dots, these would all be on the perpendicular bisector of those lines. Okay, so here is my final image. So I used the fact that I have a perpendicular bisector, and I did some counting to decide where to reflect and how to graph. Okay. There are actually some rules for all of these that if you choose to look up, it might be good to look up the rules for flipping over the x-axis, the y-axis, and the lines y equals x and y equals -x. And that could help you if you don't like the way that I did this. Okay, so to recap, so far we've learned to do a translation, which is just a slide. We've learned to do a reflection, which is a flip. So today, hopefully you've learned how to do a reflection and what an actual reflection is. Remember, it is an isometry. Its size and shape doesn't change, just its orientation. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys soon.